Oh, I just make sure they work. All right, here we go. Good evening and welcome to this Urban Village Development Commission meeting for the night of 1st of May, 2018. Welcome to the commission and applicants and staff. Thank you for being here. Let's call this to order at 7:01. And first thing we're going to do is have...
Minutes. Are there minutes?
Yeah, I thought you wanted to talk about that first. Yes, we have minutes, sorry.
No, that's okay. We'll wait till you're done with the minutes. before
Okay.
we-
Has everybody had a chance, an opportunity to review the minutes or watch the video from last time or any of those things?
Yes.
I
Any
reviewed it.
comments or corrections to the minutes?
I wasn't there, so
I have no correction.
So do we have a motion to accept the minutes from 17 April?
Since it's you and me, I'll motion.
You'll move?
I'll move.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you can still approve them. It's okay. So the motions are adopted unanimously. With that, Lucy is going to go over our order of operations tonight.
So, hi, I'm Lucy Sloman, Land Development Manager for DSD. And so this is a site development permit, the second part of the hearing. We did the first part April 3rd. And so because it is a quasi-judicial permit and you are the decision makers, I'm just going to take you through a little process to make sure that we are compliant. So in the urban villages, any site that's 3 acres or greater requires a site development permit, and less than that is administrative decision. You are the decision makers for this, and it is a quasi-judicial permit. So you are conducting a planning level review for conformance with the development agreement, city codes where applicable, comp plan. It isn't a review of technical studies, and it's not a review of architectural materials and colors, because the Architectural Review Commission does that. However, if you have comments on those, it's always fine to share them. Sarah Hoy often watches, and that helps inform her as the executive director of the group that is the Architectural Review Committee. So a quasi-judicial permit is treated like a court, and the proceedings have to both be fair and appear fair. And to do that, we do two things. We have procedural due process and substantive due process. Procedural due process is the processes that we use to make this fair. We send out notices. We make sure that people know all the discussion takes place on the record. Substantive due process means that we base the decision on adopted regulations so that the criteria are clear and obvious. So what I'd like is if you could read through these conditions if you haven't memorized them. Not these criteria, not conditions, and then I'll ask you some questions about them. So how many people answer no to all the questions? Okay. If you answer yes, could you identify why you would answer yes, or how?
I answer yes to question number 5 because I'm about a half mile away from the subject property in Issaquah Islands.
Okay.
I do as well. I live in the Issaquah Islands.
Okay.
And I answer yes to number 5. I actually live on High Street in Issaquah Highlands.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. And then ex parte communications, as I mentioned, all of our discussion and decision-making has to occur on the record, on mic, where everyone can know the basis that you're using. So have any of you talked about this permit outside of the hearing or the chambers?
No.
Okay. Anyone in the audience care to challenge any of our commissioners? Great. And just as a reminder, the difference between a site development permit and a preliminary plat, and I'll just focus on the site development permit since we just did a plat. Site development permits are not only, it's mostly about design, whereas a plat, you're establishing the new lines, the new parcels. Site development permits are about looking at how the various parcels and tracts that are in the permit, how they've been designed as parks, as roads, as future building areas, as open space, and how they comply with the codes for how those are supposed to be designed. Any questions? Okay.
Lucy, I have to go back to the ex parte communications. Jeff Walker called me sometime between this last meeting and this meeting. It was over a week ago, and asked if Mayor Pauley had called me. And I said no, and he said she called him, something to do with the decision about High Street. No more details than that, but I wanted to get that out there.
Okay, great. Doesn't have to do with this permit, but I appreciate knowing that. And let me, so I was going to do this at the end of the meeting, but I will just do it before we officially start the hearing. The High Street permit at our last meeting, the 17th of April, you all recommended approval. That is also quasi-judicial process and was headed to council. You make a recommendation to council, who are the decision makers. Typically, you cannot have a conversation about the matter again outside of the hearing. However, due to the complexity of that permit and the fact that High Street is technically not within the parcel, the mayor has asked us to split that permit into two processes going through council. One will be the plat, which I don't think is very controversial. The other piece is High Street. And because it is not technically part of the plat, it will be handled as a legislative matter, which allows for continued conversation between the community, and the decision makers and staff and everyone. And so we are actually preparing two agenda bills. There will be two separate discussions and two separate recommendations back to full council. And so I think the reason the mayor was contacting Jeff and possibly others is she, and we wanted to have some of the commissioners who have sat through the testimony, know the permit in more detail, come and testify or speak, not testify, but speak to the High Street closure probably at the council committee. But we will be in touch about that, but I think that's what that's regarding, and I was going to update you because that is a change since you all made your recommendation. Anything else?
No,
Okay.
not for me, thank you.
Wait till last one. Hello, my name is Valerie Porter. I'm an associate planner with the City of Issaquah in the Development Services Department. I'm going to talk to you about the site development permit, but I'm not going to get into details like I did in the first meeting about the overall project. I'm just going to talk about issues that were discussed and questions that were brought up in the last meeting. But before we get started, just want to give you a quick overview of the project. So Polygon Northwest, the applicant, is proposing to construct on a vacant land that's 7.26 acres. The site is located in the Issaquah Highlands next to Grand Ridge Plaza. The site, they're going to construct 111 attached townhomes throughout 21 buildings, and 10 of those will be designated as affordable housing. The project will also consist of a neighborhood park, a pea patch, and several pocket parks. So the first topic that we're going to talk about is character streets. So 2 character streets are proposed for this project. These are extensions of the character streets from the Townhomes South project. Character streets are privately owned and maintained by the Westridge Townhomes North Homeowner Association. Character streets are pedestrian priority streets that are constructed out of concrete, and walkways along character streets will be at grade with the road. Vertical curbs are not present on character streets. Instead, vertical elements like benches, raised planters, street trees, and paving materials, colors, and textures will be used. The speed limit on these streets will be 25 miles per hour, which is consistent to other surrounding residential streets. So character streets are designed a little bit differently, but safety is still at the forefront of the design. Character streets, compared to traditional streets surrounding the project, look and feel a little bit differently. So as a result, initially drivers will be more attentive as they're, trying to figure out the new environment. The pedestrian crossings will still meet city standards, therefore white reflective striping and visual cues like the truncated domes will still be present, and they're going to help alert drivers and assist with the visually impaired. The crosswalks also will be designed to have decorative pavement textures and colors. Having visual appealing crossings will help create awareness of a pedestrian crossing and make the streets appear more narrow to drivers, therefore deterring speeding. Vertical elements, which consist of benches, trees, bollards, lights, and planters, will be used along streets to help delineate between pedestrian walkways, parking areas, and traveling lanes. It also creates a unique character for the area and acts as a barrier between pedestrians and vehicle areas. Vertical elements along the street give the perception traveling lanes are narrow and are really, which they really are, which help calm traffic. Are there any questions before I move on to the next topic? Okay, great. Next topic is going to be vehicle parking. So one of the questions that came up in the last meeting was if the proposed project is aligned with the rest of the neighborhood. Like the other projects, Westridge Townhomes North greatly exceeds the parking requirement. The city requires multifamily residential projects to provide at least 2 parking stalls for every unit, which the applicant is meeting. In addition to the side-by-side parking, tandem parking will also be offered. 38 single-car garage units have tandem parking to meet the city standard. This pretty much equates to about 34% for the entire project. The city requires developments to provide no more than 50% of tandem parking for a project. As you can see from the table below, the Westridge Townhome project compared to the surrounding project is consistent with the rest of the neighborhood. Many of the other projects are exceeding the parking requirements as well. Garage parking and sizes of garage were also brought up in the last meeting. The city tries to ensure that garages can properly accommodate vehicles of the residents, as well as waste containers, bicycle parking, as well as a little bit of storage. In an effort to make this happen, the city has provided this condition in the staff report. Staff believes providing homes with adequately sized garages increases its functionality and preserves the curb appeal. The next topic is going to be unlawful street parking. So cars parked on the opposite direction was brought up, and that is an issue because it creates unsafe situation when cars pull out into oncoming traffic. There aren't many techniques that can be implemented to prevent this, so I reached out to the Issaquah Police Department to see if they had any recommendations. The Issaquah Police Department handles these type of infractions, and they've asked that if this is seen, that they be notified, and then they'll come out and ticket. All right, the next topic is going to be the featured pedestrian way. The featured pedestrian way is a safe and pedestrian-friendly walkway. Some points along the featured pedestrian way, the trail intersects with character streets and alleys. All intersections along the character streets still have to meet the city standards. With that being said, at road crossings, there will be reflective stripes to alert drivers, vertical elements like trees to create a barrier between the pedestrian and the vehicle, and curb bulb outs, which are pretty much sidewalk extensions that help increase visibility and also give the perception of a narrow street. This is actually highlighted right over here, just to kind of get an idea. So to engage the user, there should be elements like benches, bike racks, art, and attractive landscaping to add to the character of the neighborhood. The featured pedestrian way trail along with the landscaping will be maintained by the Issaquah Highlands Community Association.
I have a question on that one, Eller. White reflective strips or striping, do we have trying to think if we have that in Issaquah Highlands anywhere, actually reflective. We have white paint many places.
So I don't know how long the standard's been in place, but where we use those decorative concrete crosswalks, we now do them with the same kind of reflective Durastripe
Okay.
on either side of them. I don't know if that's a newer standard because I'm not sure all of them have it, but I know that, for instance, at Forest Ridge Parcel C, that is another polygon project that we started using that standard.
If we use them, absolutely wonderful, and I'm not opining that everything should be retrofitted. If we didn't use them, and this was just a vestige of some copy and paste, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't, oh, we've specified reflective strips, and that's actually not going to happen, so,
Nope.
thank you.
Thank you. So the proposed design is consistent with the Issaquah Highlands Development Agreement, but staff has proposed modifications to the approval condition number 8, just to make things read a little bit better and make the expectation a little bit clearer. Next, we're going to talk about open spaces. So the applicant is proposing to provide a neighborhood park, which is located next to buildings 19 through 21. They're also going to add a pea patch and several pocket parks. And an example of that can be seen between buildings 19 and 21. All of these areas will be privately maintained. All open spaces should have elements that create a unique and memorable neighborhood identity. They should also incorporate art into everyday elements like the paving pattern and landscaping. The neighborhood park should be designed for children of all ages and inviting for children as well as adults. To help achieve this, many of the design features should be multifunctional. And what I mean by that is elements like a seat wall that also acts as a retaining wall, or stepping stones that also provide seating. Stormwater detention vault. This image right here at the bottom of the slide is a section of the detention vault placed underground. The neighborhood park will also be housed under the open space area. The lawn will be constructed on top of the vault. At least 3 to 5 feet of soil will be placed over the vault, and this can be seen right over here in this section. That's the green as the topsoil. Staff doesn't anticipate ponding to occur. In an effort to prevent this, proper topsoil should be used, which will help water percolate. This will be reviewed during the construction permit phase to ensure this doesn't happen.
Sorry, some of these are as much curiosity, Valerie, as anything else. Do we have history? I never know its name, the old retention pond near Swedish, West Highlands Park South, I think it might be called, obviously has one. Do we have histories of others in Issaquah Highlands or Talus or Issaquah in general, and how are they faring?
Putting parks on top of vaults. It's a relatively new thing that we've been seeing for maybe the last 5 years. Before that, we tended to get the open ponds, which you see more commonly at Issaquah Highlands. Brownstones doesn't have that, no. Because most of Issaquah Highlands was designed with a regional stormwater system, individual parcels don't, and Westridge, because it has some of the, it switched from Microsoft office development to the residential. They are needing to address stormwater in a different way, which is why you're seeing that. We are seeing them I can think of other parts of the city, but I'm not sure whether they're actually open as parks yet.
Yeah, I've got a question too on that. Is there venting on this underground pond? And is the venting located close to play equipment, picnic tables, benches, or is it separate?
So we usually try and bury it in the middle of a landscape bed. The venting looks like a grate, so no one could fall into it.
I'm talking about the gases coming back out.
Oh, I don't, since this is stormwater, not sewage, so I don't think that there's an issue with gases. I think it's mostly that there's just a certain amount of air circulation that's needed, and so they're pretty big grates
Okay.
that are necessary.
Thank you.
I have a question. Are these just like precast concrete vaults?
No, they're custom fit.
Okay. Is there a projected lifespan of that?
I don't know. I would guess that they are, 50, 75 years. And there's a lot of maintenance that comes with, I mean, not a lot, but there's maintenance that come with it to ensure that it has a good lifespan. But I don't know, other than typical concrete lifespan. That's a good question.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to ask David Avenal to come and assist me. The next topic we're going to talk about is entitlements. So as you can see, there's a small section below or south of Northeast Ellis Drive that's a part of this project. So at the time when Westridge South was being applied for, the applicant did not have enough entitlements to complete the small portion. In July 2016, the applicant requested to have transferred development rights, and that was approved. This increased the applicant's entitlements from 265 to 365, which then allowed them to build the small portion below Ellis Drive as well as the entire project. So as of right now, the applicant is proposing to construct 111 units. At the last UVDC meeting, you guys looked at the Westridge single-family preliminary plat, and there was a condition that was created that could possibly remove one of the units from that project. Should this happen, the applicant will most likely add that unit to this project. And so as a result of that, staff has added this condition. Going to give it over to David now.
Sure. So just to piggyback on this condition, and I wanted to, visually show you guys where we would be adding this unit. It should be noted too. I mean, this 112 units over here on this left side. This is was originally in the submittal. It was a math error at that point. It's kind of interesting now that we're talking about it again and going, well, this is actually a distinct possibility with what's happening in the condition for the single-family plat. So I just wanted to point out, I mean, this unit right here, you can kind of see it's shaded yellow. This is the unit that we would add in here to this building, currently, building 3. I'm going over here to the 111 unit plan. Currently, we have this as a 5-plex right here, 5 units. We would add one more unit into that. It would become a 6-plex. To back up, just to show you visually, I might go back a few slides. It's in this portion of the site that Valerie was just discussing. So it's this building right here.
Can you go back to that? My
sure.
vision's not real good. Can you tell me the street names on there, please?
Sure. Right here,
No,
this is
the next one over.
this street?
Nope, the next slide over.
Oh, sorry.
That slide, yes.
This slide, okay.
Thank you.
So to orient you here, this is Northeast Ellis.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, we flipped this one on its side. I apologize.
East is at the top, is that correct?
Thank you.
East is at the top, that is
I
correct.
was not born with a compass, and I get so confused on this.
No, that's okay.
Is the
Yes.
feature trail the one that's listed on the right that goes vertically?
Okay.
Yes, and this is
Thank you.
actually the featured trail that's in the Townhomes South project. So
Okay.
it's the project right below us for this particular SDP.
I switched it around.
But yeah, just wanted to kind of get that on record so you guys could see where we're planning on adding that unit if the condition actually gets applied to single family north and we have to
Over there.
and move one of those units.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the applicant is required to construct 49 affordable housing units. For this project, they're going to construct 10 units. You can see those highlighted in red. The homes will be dispersed throughout the project, and the selected locations could possibly change if they're not consistent with the development agreement. Staff will review the unit locations during the construction permit phase. So for the next, after further review, the staff report, we realized that all the building ends were not highlighted, and we just wanted to call out that all of the building ends in the briefing memo we wanted to call out in the briefing memo that all of the building ends needed to have architectural treatment, and so that's why this we have this image here with this building end highlighted. Also, staff is proposing to revise condition number 39, just because we feel that the linkage is not necessary, and removing this text would help streamline the permitting process.
Are the facades builder ARC through IHCA, or is it done through the city?
So it's a little bit of a joint thing. We're going to make sure that there's a range of things that could happen. The ARC gets to decide on the specific design. So we actually, with the South Townhome project, came up with a solution that worked for both the ARC and the city. We're looking at it just kind of from an urban design perspective. They were looking at it from an architectural perspective. I assume, you'd have to ask the applicant, but I assume they're going to use the same sort of terrace and porch technique that they used with the South Townhomes.
Thank you.
So next are conditions that will be completely removed. So at the request of the applicant, staff is agreeing to remove conditions 11 and 20. Condition 11 talks about the location and the size of the detention vault. Staff believes at this stage the vault is sized properly, but should the vault size increase for some reason and affect the design or configuration, the design change must be turned back to the UVDC for approval. For condition 20, this is referring to the construction of Northeast Federal Drive. Staff was under the impression that part of Northeast Federal Drive was on Shelter Holdings property, but Northeast Federal Drive is located solely on the applicant's property, therefore that condition is no longer needed.
So in 11, that's simply due to the fact that they have more horizontal space to work with, correct?
Right. We carried forward the condition from Westridge South because the streets completely surrounded the vault, and there was a concern that if it got broader, that the street system wasn't going to work anymore. There's a little more space around this one. It only has streets on two sides. And the design is a much further along because they've been working out the whole stormwater system for the entire Westridge North area. So they feel much more confident about the size of it. But as Valerie noted, if there was a significant change that changed the above-ground character of things, then we would come back and have a discussion with the commission.
Perfect. Thank you.
And that is it. Any additional questions? All right.
You guys have any questions on any of those?
I think a lot of them were answered, and I appreciate that because when we went through originally, there was a ton of questions, and as I read this, I kind of wrote agree towards, all the conclusions that came out. So parking's still a little fuzzy in my head as far as how it's going to shake out, but I understand the metrics and how they've applied, it is one of the more robust allotted spaces within the area, so that makes sense to me.
Well, and I think that we, having been through a series of permits with you guys, and hearing both comments from the community and from the commission, that's part of the condition that Valerie was showing you is one that we're starting to use on a regular basis so that there's a lot of clarity for the applicant, for staff, and the public and commission about what the expectations of a garage, what it needs to accommodate to make sure that it's both functional and unlikely to become their de facto storage unit.
Yeah, the critical part, for me, I brought this up last meeting, was the recycling trash, yard waste containers, and making sure that there's an alcove or a place for them to be. Now, that will definitely inhibit cars parking in the garage, even without storage, if they're
Right.
not in the right place.
Right.
And we're not actually looking at blueprints of plans to say,
Right.
okay, that makes sense, they're right there, but we're trusting that they've been accounted for, so.
Right. So when they come in, we have them show where all those things are, that, what size container are you planning for? Where would it go? Where are the cars? Where would they go? So that we're trying to make sure that we're doing the allotment for the basic elements. And
You are welcome to do a site visit to my garage with 2 relatively small cars, 3 waste containers, and it is tight. I'm telling you, tight.
And I'll add my garage to that. You literally cannot get out of the car when garage is full of the waste cans. So it's interesting.
So
It's tight.
I will identify that in some cases, applicants have chosen to do a compact and a standard car in the garages, which is allowed, but we think unwise because it makes it,
One is a Mini Cooper and the other is a 2-door coupe. They ain't big.
you're not letting me off. I hear
Not
that.
letting you
I hear
off.
that.
No.
Okay, good to know.
I can bring pictures.
Well, the HC wasn't really cracking down on the trash cans until probably about 6 years ago, being outside, and they have to be inside now. Otherwise, there's pretty aggressive finding structure and all that, so it's important that everything coexists within the garage.
Absolutely, and actually, there is I think it's called Bear Safe Washington has been contacting me lately. We went through this, I think it was even longer ago than 7 years, Ben, maybe even 10 years ago because of the bear issues that were coming up in the eastern part of Issaquah Highlands. And we knew about that, but I don't think we had fully appreciated what we needed to do with the waste collection to avoid it. And I think it has been a good partnership with the city and the IHCA in trying to really think about how to do this in a way that people can more or less practically do. And that will reduce the likelihood that we become the bear recreation zone.
I live on a greenbelt. When I first moved in 10 years ago, there was plenty of bears, and I haven't seen them in a while, so that might be a good sign that they've relocated, but.
Right, and the reason Bear Safe contacted me was not about Issaquah Highlands, about some of the new projects that are coming in between Cougar Mountain and the lake, and concerns that there are going to be a lot of bears that are, heading between those 2 areas, and what are we doing to make sure that the bears can't get in?
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Anything else?
I don't know that I do. I think we've covered
I feel
everything
like
that I
I
wrote
should
down.
ask more questions, but I don't have any.
So technically on this, we want to ask for public comments.
That's
Any
true.
public out there that would like to speak, you can sign up with that clipboard as soon as you walk through the door and make yourself visible. And we're open for public comments. There are no public attendee. We are now closed for public comment.
Okay.
Next, we need to move to,
I think if the conditions of approval as drafted are acceptable, then the commission can use the motion, the drafted motion, and just read the top paragraph and the bottom paragraph as a motion. And you can just strike "and as amended" this evening, because you're not making any amendments, at least as I understand it now.
Ben's doing it. Go for it, Ben. All right. Motion for approval. I move that the Urban Village Development Commission approves the site development permit for Westridge Townhomes North Project, file number SDP 17-00002, as described and evaluated in the staff report dated March 23, 2018, the plan set drawings dated October 20, 2018, briefing response memo dated April 24, 2018, and subject to the conditions identified in the staff report and revised or new conditions in the briefing response memo, number 8, number 11, number 20, number 39, and number 55. And I move that the Village Development Commission direct the Development Services Department to prepare findings of fact and conclusions for review and approval by the UVDC chairman, affirming the UVDC's decision to approve the Westridge Townhomes North Site Development Permit, file number SDP 17-00002, subject to the condition listed in the staff report, modified in the staff memo, and it is amended this evening.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4 ayes. That's unanimous for the quorum that we have.
So, thank you. That may be setting a world record.
I know, that was quick.
So what we're going to do now is Valerie and I are going to set up for the second item. We would ask that the commissioners come down and sit at the table. We're just going to have a conversation. We're going to set up an easel for the strategic plan discussion.
Dinner will be served.
It would be good, it would be good to have these, it would be good to have these 2 sheets of paper. You don't need the rest of the packet, but these 2 are
Just saying,
valuable.
Lucy.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Oh, no, the other next is the Right.